Welcome to Shoan Snowday Presents. This is Shoan, and I'm with Paul Sokol.
Hey, what's up, party people?
And we are going, so here's the deal. We're going to basically wing it here. Now, Paul, I know you go sideways sometimes and you end up telling the truth, and the people are not ready for that. So let's try to just keep it
All right, you can
copacetic.
reel me in.
So anyhow, I mean, you were at our last live event and you piled on the cool there. And I know that you've been on the stage a lot in the past. I followed you probably for the past 15 years. How long has it been since your first time
I
at
think I
the
did. I think
Partner
I
Con,
started Icon
Icon,
12, so at
Icon
least a
12?
decade.
So it's
Yeah.
11, 12 years.
hmm It's
Yeah.
been a long minute.
Back when you were like 21 years old or something like that. Or were you a
Uh,
teenager?
yeah.
Still in high
It
school?
was as fresh as I go, just crawling out on a stage.
So anyhow, what are we going to talk about today?
We're gonna go ahead and talk about humanized automation and how we can use this to maximize your input effort. And there's all sorts of ways to do that.
Yeah, and the weird thing about humanized automation is it's not AI, it's IA, right? It's intelligent um authenticity or something to that effect, right?
Sure, we'll go with that one. That works perfect.
So what is humanized automation?
So humanized automation is basically what you and I would probably call, good automation in that it doesn't really feel automated, or if it is, it still feels good. You don't feel like you're some number in a machine, or it, feels icky. It feels like that person sat down and actually wrote whatever you're getting directly in that moment for you, whether it's a text message or email, uh, like even like you just with like LinkedIn automation, right? In fact, raise your hand, everybody in the audience, if you ever got a bad automated LinkedIn message before.
All
Never
the time.
happened. Never. That's everybody that does LinkedIn automation. It's super humanized and it feels great. Um, uh, but that's kind of that's a good example of what's not nice and humanized. And humanized feels good, where again, people like to think you sat down and actually wrote it today and you were thinking about them, which if you believe like I believe you did sit and write it for them and this other person just and all sorts of people. It's not just, hey, here's an email that I learned how to send automatically, because that
Right.
doesn't really feel good for
Yeah,
most
you
of
know
you.
what's funny? I received an email the other day from probably someone from another country, and it said so there's diamonds in the database, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't in my LinkedIn, and I don't know, and so I had to find out, where did I say that? Well, it's buried deep in a testimonial on one of my websites, Feel Your Fitness,
Nice.
um, which is just like an anchor. It's just sitting out there collecting leads right now.
Nice.
And I think that funnel's even broken. And I'm always like, I should
Should fix
fix
that.
this, and then I get lazy. But my point is, someone took the time and the effort to really find some data about me that I would go, oh, okay, they really researched me. But then everything else in the message was AI.
Oh
And I
man.
was like, you're not even speaking proper English. So it was obviously not humanized, but it touched my heart for a minute. They had me, they had the hook in, you know.
You
So
got
how
you.
do you avoid those things? What are some of the things you do, or how do you prepare? What are some things you do to
Uh,
humanize?
well, first, am I blurry? Am I looking blurry here? I feel I just got a new camera
You're not
recently,
you're
and
not blurry, but you have a lot of bass. Your
okay,
microphone is probably like 5 feet away from you, but don't worry
okay,
about it.
so we're
Don't worry
good.
about it
All
because
right.
then you'll all right.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just got a new camera, so I'm still figuring out the best way to do it. So, how do you avoid making bad, unhumanized automation? So, I sound like a broken record because I talk about this all the time, and it all starts with storyboarding out or designing the customer journey, like actually figuring out what do you want to have happen, and then what, and then what, and then what, and, what should somebody go ahead and do, and then you can go ahead and write your messaging to that. And then, of course, you also need to understand what happened before this. Like, how did somebody get there? How did they get to that point? So even if it is just a LinkedIn random thing, a random connection, that's okay. You got to address that in the messaging and understand that that's about that's about it. And you don't want to make it feel like some random person talking to you. You want to give them a reason to like pay attention, like you said with the diamonds and the rough thing. So sometimes you can do some research like that. Sometimes you can't always do that necessarily. The other thing too is, and this is crazy, put yourself in the position of that person and see how you would feel if you received it. And if it feels weird or awkward to you, guess what? You're not unique or alone. It's going to feel weird and awkward to them.
Yeah.
And then when you automate that, you're just automating weirdness at scale, which it doesn't work.
Nice. That is my next masterclass. Weirdness at
Weirdness at
scale.
scale.
I just went to the Boy George concert, so he said he was the OW, the original weirdo.
Ooh, I like that.
So,
Weirdness
but of
at
course, I went to see Berlin because Terry Nunn's a babe. But anyhow, that's kind of you weren't even born yet when this stuff
probably
was.
not. No.
But the thing is, one of the things with the customer journey. So with the customer journey, there's a few steps. Some people do it differently, but I talk about the 4 awarenesses. And so since I am a drug addict and I'm in recovery and I, got been sober a really super long time. But the deal is that I talk about these 4 awarenesses. I guess I should do this. The first one is that you have a problem, but you don't even realize you have a problem. So I always talk about drug addiction. A drug addict, they don't even know they're a drug addict. And
Mm-hmm.
their awareness is they don't know they have a problem. Then they come to the realization, oh, wait a minute, this is a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
they're aware that they have a problem, but then they don't know what the solution is. Then they're like, I need help. So they start reaching out for help. Then they find the solution, but they find out there's more than one solution. And then our goals as entrepreneurs and business owners is to let them know we're the solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you are researching other people, but we need to humanize and automate. I actually let this guy know the other day there's a killer thing on AppSumo right now. I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I will because it's my live. But what it does is when you go into AppSumo or when you go into a Facebook group and you know how you put your email in there and it
Mm-hmm.
says what's the best email or what's the email you signed up in order to get in this group, it will actually put that email into your CRM.
Oh, cool. There you
Yeah,
go.
it's great
That
from
saves a
Facebook.
bunch of time.
It's not automating the Facebook at all. What it does is when you say, "Oh, well, I'm about to enter your house. Here's my name," and then you do the whole indoctrination from Infusionsoft. Send them an email. Hey, welcome to my tribe. This is where you can find me. Here's my Instagram. Here's all this. So, what is the first step when you talk about the customer journey? What is the first step, and how does that? How do you apply the humanization to that?
That's a great example. That's a great example here. So, uh, and of course, the journey you can go as far back as possible, and in the future as much as possible. So, in that example, I might look at why somebody is joining the group. So you do all sorts of stuff. They become aware of it. Maybe you had posted about it. Maybe emailed your existing list about it, and then they join the group. Uh, let's just assume that they getting approved automatically as well. Is that what this thing does? It lets them in,
No,
or
it's just right. Actually, well, I haven't used it
okay.
yet. I watched the video, but I was like, "This is super cool." Plus, AppSumo, since I'm a premium member, they gave me $50, and I was like, "Oh, I gotta spend the 50." They
Okay.
they suck,
'Cause
because
that
then
would
they're like they give you $50, so you end up spending 300, you know?
so that would be something that is really critical and important to know. Let's say that you do have a moderator that's approving them into the group. You can't just send an email that says, "Hey, welcome to the group," blah blah blah, because they still need to get approved.
Right,
So if anything, you can still send an email that says, "Thanks for requesting to be in the group.
right,
Here's what to expect. It should take my team, X, Y, and Z to do it.
yeah,
If uh, if you haven't been accepted by Wednesday, for example, or whatever 2 days out from now is, there's a good idea that talk about humanized automation, talking about this exact moment in time. So it's Monday as we're recording this. I would set up my email to do that, to say, if you haven't heard from us by day +2, here's your recourse. Here's what you can do. Go ahead and reply to this and let me know. Or go, if you haven't heard from us within 2 days, uh, here's the link to go back to the group. Double check that that maybe you were accepted, you just didn't get notified or something like that.
yeah,
And then again, here's your recourse. Here's what to do about that.
right.
Um, are you able to send other information in there as well? Because usually with the groups, you ask them, what's your email, what's the name of your dog, like this
Yeah,
kind of
I
stuff.
haven't checked everything, but I was just giving one example, like, so
Okay.
the really cool thing is, again, like, what I like is if you're a fit, because, again, I always bring I don't always bring, but it fits in this, in the indoctrination,
Hmm.
is it's if I'm a fit. So I went into what's called a sober living. I got sober in my 20s, and the deal is that, I remember they had to interview me, right? And they're like, "Okay," and so I'm at this table with other guys in their 20s, and they're like, "Well, we all have to talk and see if you, resonate with our heart and if you're, like, part of the team," and I'm just sitting there wanting in so bad. I'd just gotten out of jail. I got evicted from my house. I'm couch surfing, because I go where all the tough guys go, mom's couch, right? So
Yeah, of
so
course.
I'm sitting there
There's a
just,
tough guy.
like, straight out of jail, just hating life, just wanting so bad, and then they're like, "We'll contact you if you're a fit." So that's part of the customer journey sometimes, because
Mhm.
people always wanna be part of the cool kids club, right?
They do. They do. And so let's pretend, for example, that you can send information from their answers. So it's something about, well, we'll use the dog example. I don't know, because I hear him whining in the crate because he's being a butthead. So, um, push in your name, push in the dog's email, and then it can be something like, um, tell me more about dog's name. Where does that come from? Does it mean anything? My dog's name is Jack. He's a blue heeler. Da 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 da. So that's humanized. That's taking what we know about them and talking about it. And this entire time showed, and of course you and I understand this, but this whole time we're still talking about one single message and all these possible considerations that could go with it to make it sound humanized, as opposed to, thanks for joining my group.
Yeah,
Here's more crap to buy. Go buy
yeah,
it. Like, that doesn't feel good. People aren't going to feel like you care. You're just, oh, I'm joining another database. Whoopee. Because you're talking about the indoctrination, it's another opportunity of, okay, well, here's what's next. Assuming that you get into the group, which usually we do, except most folks. Um, on this day and such, we're gonna do this. On that day and such, we talk about this. Here's how the group is laid out. Which, that's another thing itself. Is, if you're gonna be bringing people into a group, you need to design that community experience. Or is it literally just a group and it's a free for all, which is okay, cool. Make sure people know that. And then
right,
also make sure that there's governance and accountability. So let's say that you do a Tech Tuesday all the time, and then for some reason you have to change it. okay, to Wednesdays. You need to have some kind of system in place to make sure that any messaging that may be related to that gets updated to Wednesday. Instead of waiting for somebody to reply back to your email and say, "Hey, I'm excited to be part of your group. Hey, by the way, you do, do you do these on Tuesday or do you do these on Wednesday?" Because the group is saying Wednesday,
Yeah.
which you can't always catch that kind of stuff. But if you have an actual documented plan and some kind of thing making distinct what the customer journey is and how the group journey works, if you ever make changes to the group, you would need to start there, figure it out, and then make the rest of the changes. And then hopefully you'll use that as an opportunity to audit the emails. Hey, we're making this change to the group. Um, let's make sure that all our messaging works. Or even if like the something like the cover of the group, if unless you're changing that a lot, you want to make sure that in the cover of the group is also going to match what is in the email, because again, that's humanized.
Right.
That's what it's so right now.
Let me tell you something kind of what I'm doing right now. So we had the automated marketing summit where you're the keynote speaker
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. And so behind me is my whiteboard. And usually by the time I'm done filling that out, it's like I get 5 grand for that and it takes about an hour or two.
Hmm.
But the deal is that all I did is behind me, that isn't even anything. It's like, oh shoot, I got the automated marketing summit coming up. I got to look cool. So I just drew a bunch of words up. Matter of fact, it says automated marketing, buying businesses, investing, scaling growth. Like these words don't even mean anything. But the reason I did that was what you're talking about here is really like figuring out the customer journey. So what I have coming up, we're going to have another online event, but this is a lot different. It's for the people of Phoenix area, Tempe, Gilbert, Chandler, all that, and it's a lot of small business owners in the area that are like chamber business owners, right? So I have a
Hmm.
list. I think about I think I have a list of like 10,000 people, and then I cleaned it and went down to 10 people. Anyhow, little joke right there, but that's how it feels when you clean a list.
Hmm.
But anyhow, so the thing is, and then we're gonna have a party, a face-to-face dance party in a nightclub after the online live event. So it's like
That's cool.
it's like what I got to do is I got to go, hey everybody from Phoenix, Gilbert, Chandler, and the people that don't know this, it's like a 50-mile radius, right? So all the
Hmm.
people that are coming in, but it's like now you have to drive 30 miles. So everyone you just met online, you got to drive 30 miles and at the dance party is where all the deals are done. All right.
Yeah.
I had a friend that I'm not even kidding you. He had a deal and he was at a bar. It is in La Jolla. This is many years ago. And this guy, he met a guy at the bar, and the guy's like, "Oh, blah blah blah. I'm looking for a specific deal." And the other guy that had that specific deal was in the same bar. He took a napkin and he said, "Write down on this." Boom, boom, boom. And he took it over to the other guy and he said, "Hey, I got this for you." And he made 20 grand like in 5 minutes.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
what we're doing, what I'm doing is I'm bringing all of these people together for the dance party where the deals are going to be done. Now, that being said, I need to know, do you like disco or do you like death metal, right?
Hmm.
Like I got to have a little bit of information about the people, the customer journey, right? Before they come in. It needs to be humanized. I just can't say, um, well, and like say like I have their first name. Hi, Cindy. Obviously you like disco, so we're gonna love to see. And she's gonna be like, "What are you talking about?"
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So how do you get that to come together? How do you figure out how do you make it, how do you drill down into the humanization of automation?
So you got the first part figured out, which is to again get the whole journey figured out, and then go from moment to moment, or I call them pathways. So, for
Okay,
example, you're
but
going to have.
let's back up again. We don't have the do you have, like, certain steps of the journey, like the 10 steps of a customer journey, or do you have something like that? Or is it customized every time?
Um, it's usually customized, but it's kind of like Legos, where you build the thing that you want to build, and of course there's the fundamental components of it, or like super common structures. So like a landing page to a set of emails, and maybe having like a video on that landing page. That's a really common thing. You don't really need to reinvent the wheel here. um, and that's a perfectly good place to start and say, cool, we're going to have some landing page, salespeople on it, come to this event, they opt in. And I like to think about it from the high level, like the 10,000 foot moments in the customer experience, almost like a theme park. So they get into the main gates, and then they walk through America Town, USA, and then they can go to Splash Mountain, or uh, Ride B, whatever the case is. And each of those moments definitely can have its parts to it. Um, and then it's once you have those key moments there. So in this case, key moment is like landing page, like getting a profile of them, doing the live event, doing the online event, having the live event in the club, which is where you'll find me, in the club. Um,
Yo, what up, 50 Cent?
High. Well, due to inflation, he's actually 55 cents now.
Well, you actually know oh, just to go off track for a second, there's a concert coming up for 45 cents. Uh, you didn't know that?
No,
Yeah, it's
no.
50 cent it's 50 Cent and Nickelback. Okay, back to you, Paul Sokol.
Well, it's been great, Shoan. I'll see you later. But like, so for example, that's like the major parts of the customer journey. And then once I have that figured out, then I will develop the pathways to get people from one thing to the next. And in this case, it's pretty linear.
Right.
Although if you're doing like a theme park, for example, people might go from one ride to this other ride, but then go from one ride to a different ride, and there's
Right.
the little walkways. So those walkways, those pathways have to be designed, and that's where you can get that's the kind of stuff that you storyboard out, and of course factoring in the main moments. So yes, the landing page is one moment. They go to the landing page, and then they see the thank you page, and then they get like an email.
So we're
And
going into well, like we're drilling down to more complicated stuff, but it's a lot like, the thing is, and it's so hard for me to get my clients to understand the indoctrination email. I'm like, but I think the theme park's going to work better because I always use your house. When someone comes to
mhm,
your house, you're like, hey, welcome to my house. Here's the living room. Here's the game room, right? Here's the
mhm,
kitchen. Here's the bathroom. And then if you want to go to the backyard and see the swimming pool, it's back there, right?
mhm.
And you only do that once. You don't do that every time they come over, right?
Yeah, there's
So
no need to.
yeah, so the indoctrination email would be like, "Welcome to the amusement park. These are all the things you could do there. What do you?" Because every time I'm telling you, when I love live music, I'm a musician. When I was a kid, and I mean a teenager, I would go to not when I was a little boy, like I want to go on like see Mickey Mouse, but when I was a teenager and everybody would go to amusement parks, they would all hit the roller coasters and I would go and I'd go, which band is playing where? And I'd just go and watch live music all day. And they're
Nice.
like, "What'd you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I went on 2 roller coasters and I saw a bunch of great music." So see how it's customized, like what you're
Mhm,
saying. Everyone wants a different journey once they come into your domain. And
mhm.
if your domain provides a bunch of different services, products, or whatever, then you have to segment them. So how do you when does that come in? Does it come in at the beginning, at the indoctrination, or afterwards?
The whole
How do
time.
you go about that? Huh?
It's you can do it the whole time. You can. What I'll usually do is it's like, so for this kind of event, I would probably I always like to segment people based off like the one single most important data point that if that's literally all you get, that's enough for you.
Yeah.
So, name, email, and what city are you in Chandler or Mesa or Tempe, whatever. Because if they never tell you absolutely anything else, you can at least know, hey, because you're coming from Chandler, here's how to get to the club. Go take the two to whatever. If you're coming from Mesa, just go west down the 60 and, so forth and so on. And then the next part could be like what you're saying, I want to make this a cool event for everybody. What's the best, what kind of music do you like? We'll
Yeah.
try and get a couple of different DJs if there's a big enough
The
cluster
one
of
thing that
people,
I
maybe
need to
we'll have
do,
two DJs.
there's a few people involved in this, but what I need to do, so that everyone gets 2 drinks for free. That's just all
Okay.
of our events are 2 drink. It's a 2 drink minimum, and we pay for those up front.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the club is like, we'll give them free drinks if you drive the traffic. Bring in a couple hundred people,
Mm-hmm.
then they don't mind doing that because it's not a lot of money off their back.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as people spill that much, behind the bar. But um, the thing is, I wanna have an additional bonus, like, I wanna say, if you come to the live event and you stay the entire time, like your good friend Alex, who you love and adore,
Oh,
uh,
bestie in the world.
that's what but if you stay till the end, then there'll be a bonus. So I wanna say, like, at the end, I don't want it to be extra drinks, but, like, it would be like, come to the VIP room, or there's a VIP party afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
at the Duhini Mansion, which, of course, I own.
Mm-hmm.
That's in
And
Hollywood.
we'll be wearing bikinis, which is what everybody wants
Toga,
that. But yeah,
toga.
no, that's a great idea because now you've got the main event, and then there can be like the VIP part of it after the fact. Uh, and then yeah, but again, you can profile people along the way. Think about going to like RSVPing for a wedding. It's like, what's your name? What's your guest's name? And you want chicken or steak or vegetarian. That's segmentation, if you think
Yeah.
about it. Because then that helps guide the operations of what's going on.
Hey, I
I
wanna
like
I
that
wanna
idea.
tell you I wanna tell you something real quick that what Mike Koenig did, which pissed me off because he got me, and I was
Everything.
so
Uh,
Everything, yeah. Especially that 5 grand that I paid him. But anyhow, what
what he
happened
done?
was he said, "Listen, come to my event," and it's you could either have I don't know what I should do my right hand. It's either free or you pay it was something like, uh, $50 to it was free to, like, this is before live streaming. So you could get in for free, or it was something like $25, or you could get 25 bucks for something, $50 and you get a meal, right?
Nice.
And that's what the content said, but when you clicked, the 25 bucks had the meal and the 50 bucks didn't have the meal. And I'm like, "Oh my god, they wrote the funnel wrong. I better pay the 25 bucks and get the free meal and save 20," which he freaking did that shit on purpose. After I bought it, I was like, "Oh man, that's just such a freaking I don't want to use any bad words, but he got me, right? You know what I'm
That's
saying?
pretty good. That's
And
pretty
then I
funny.
got like a sandwich for 25 bucks and I had to drive, a half hour to go get a sandwich, which I could have got at Subway for 5 bucks, right? So,
Worth it.
but it was still cool. It was still cool. But my point is that that's
$750 hat, right?
yeah. I actually got this from Perry Belcher and I got this from Ryan.
Nice.
So yeah, that people wonder why I wear this hat. They're like, "Dude, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's like who else is wearing one? Me."
Hmm.
At least it doesn't say acquisition on it. I'm gonna get you one of those hats, by the way.
What it says acquisition?
Yeah,
Okay.
from your homie Alex.
Okay. I thought maybe it had like an embroidery of like a dog or something on it. I don't
No,
know.
it's the there's the 10X, which is you know who that is.
Hmm.
Okay, so back to you, and And of course, this is of course the cup of coffee conversation. With that, with all the indoctrination, go ahead. You got something?
No, I was drinking my cup of coffee. It was,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
So, but the thing is when you a lot of times I find when I take them through the stream. So I'll give you an example. Is you know, s- uh, someone was using jot form on their journey, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know this. This is jot form. Well, the reason I love jot form, which I've been using for a long time, I'm like early birded on that, which is sad to say because I don't use it all the time. But it's really cool because I could do all these, and now we're going to get a little complicated. I could do all of these custom fields in Infusionsoft, and then I can, in my jot form, dependent on how they answer, I can do the Boolean logic, insert it into Infusionsoft, and then I could say, "Hi, Emily. We know that your Shih Tzu had a broken paw or injured its paw, and that what did the three-legged dog say when he came into the saloon? I'm looking for the man who shot my paw, right? So I'm sorry, these things come out of nowhere. But then you could really drill down and we have the ways of helping that specific situation. And if you want to tend to it before you get here, here's something you could do. So here's some home remedies, and here's our link to set the appointment with us, right?
mm-hmm.
So you could really drill down deep like that. But do you ever get to a point where it's too complicated? I know asking you that question, the answer is no. But have you ever got to the point where
Well,
you're like, okay, now I got too much stuff going on?
when you're planning, yes. When you're planning it, you can definitely get too complicated and way too in the weeds. And that was something you and I dealt with when we were planning the automated marketing summit, where you're like, I'm trying to have this high level customer journey, and you're like, yeah, cool, I can host the videos like on this thing, and I'm like, that's cool, Shoan, but what's actually happening? Where are they actually going? What are they doing? So when you're
Yeah.
planning,
I'll
you,
make a
you
video that no one will ever watch.
that's another thing too. There's we discovered that in research and development at then Infusionsoft when we were studying small business success, that there's the need and then like the nice to have. And the story was uh, this guy Justin McDonald. He had a at the time he had a football coaching, like a youth football coaching thing, and there was the hero video at the top, and then he had like three testimonials at the bottom. And for whatever reason, it was a big nightmare to get those three testimonials, and like it ate a bunch of time trying to get there. And after the fact, looking at the analytics, practically nobody watched the videos. And so he could have done just as well without even having those videos on there. Or if anything, maybe making it like a text blurb instead of having to worry about, oh, we have to have these videos. So that's another thing too, is being honest with yourself about what's a need and what's a nice to have when you're planning. Uh, and you definitely don't want to get super technical on it. You may want to maybe discuss it a little bit, like, oh, we're going to do this thing. Okay, cool. Hey, we can definitely use jot form for that. And then that's like all you say about it. Okay, move on to the next thing. Because that's like designing a roller coaster and having like the high level thing of it. And then, like, in that process, going crazy over, well, what color is it going to be? Like, it's not really important yet. You'll get there. You'll get there when you're actually building it and planning it out. But at the planning part, it's not that important. I always like to use the Jaws the story of Jaws and Steven Spielberg mapping out, well, storyboarding out the scene where the shark jumps out onto the boat, and his production staff is like, how are you going to do this? And he's like, I don't know. It's your job to figure out. I need the shark to jump out of the water onto the boat.
Yeah.
And then there's this scene and this next thing, like, and that's it. And it was up to them to figure it out. And the cool thing is that when you're planning stuff, it's really hard, assuming you're reasonably educated in like the general capabilities of the tools and stuff. It's really hard to design something that doesn't exist. I don't think I've ever had anybody be like, okay, I want them to opt in, and then I want them to receive an email yesterday because of that. I'm like, sorry, we don't break causality here. That's not a thing. Um, and that's, of course, an extreme example here. Uh, when you're planning it out, there'll definitely be parts where you're like, okay, we know that this part is going to be a real pain in the ass to figure out because it just is. But everything else should be cool. Everything else should be fine.
Yeah.
So don't get too hung up necessarily on the details when you're planning it. That's where that's what building it is for. And then assuming you have this high level plan, then that makes it easier for you to humanize the automation and talk about here's what you did to get here, here's where you're going to go next, and now I'm going to talk to you like a real person. And then
Yeah.
that's where you inject your personality or the brand voice or whatever the case is with it. Um, and there's definitely some necessary evils. Like sometimes you do have to put some legalese in there, or you do have to say something that like kind of ruins the magic trick that something is automated. But that's okay. Like we had a outage of the internet service the other day, and I got a text about it that says, um, hey, it's been 3 days since the outage in your area was resolved. We're checking to make sure your service is still running smoothly. Okay, that's like humanized, and that's nice. And then it says, reply yes if you can connect without issues, reply no or unsure, blah, 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 this kind of stuff. Reply, text stop to opt out. So, like, that's kind of one of those necessary evils. But the message that precedes it was all right. It was pretty good. Now they know who I am. They could be like, "Hey, Paul, hope you're doing good and that the service is good. We're checking in on you." That kind of stuff. Um, and yeah, sometimes there's those legal check boxes you just got to throw in there and whatever. No one's going to die, and people are okay with it as long as the rest of the messaging is cool. It's like
Yeah.
checking your ID at the door for this event. Like they're going to have to check your ID, whatever. If anything, that's something you can pre-frame. Hey, and remember, this is a club. I probably don't have to say it, but make sure you have your ID on you, or they're not going to let you in.
Oh yeah. That's a big one because when I was on my 45th birthday, which was last week, just
Mm-hmm.
kidding. But anyhow, I remember going to this club in Pacific Beach, and I'm with my girlfriend and all her friends, and I only lived I lived a block from the ocean, right? I call it what do I call it? Baja La Jolla. But anyhow, um the dude was like 23 and he's like, "Oh, you don't have your ID, you can't get in." I go, "Dude, I'm obviously old enough." "Well, my boss said that if—" I was like, "Dude, it's my so I had to walk all the way back home, which was like 5 minutes, 3 minutes away, but I like being angry.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but my point is that is good, letting people know in advance this is how you prepare in order to
Mhm.
get, especially for a workshop. Like what I know and what I tell people when it comes to marketing or doing, like, here's your workbook, fill this out. So people will actually take the workbook before the event, they'll print it out, and then they'll and they do all this work. When you get people to take action in their office before your webinar or event, they're going to show up because they're like, hey, in the back of their consciousness, they're like, hey, some girls like, hey, you want to get a cup of coffee? And you're like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting this date forever with you, but I just filled out a piece of paper and I got to go see Paul Sokol. So,
Mhm.
so really, it's really important to have that type um of that humanization. Now, another thing on another note, I have one of these, and no one can ever hear the dial tone. But the thing is, um,
That's a prop phone. That's not even real.
no, this is a real phone, dude. I use it. And the thing is that I'm this guy. I make hundreds of phone calls because that's what I need to do in order to be successful. Even Elon Musk picks up the phone. That's what I tell people. Bill
Nice.
Gates, everybody picks up the phone. But the thing is, once in a while, I'll be calling off of like a list, like and then I'll click over to something else, and then I'll forget who I called, and then they'll answer the phone, and I'll go, "Oh, and I got to click back to where their name is this Susan?" And they're just like, "Who the hell is this?" And I lost them in that moment
Yeah.
because they know that I don't really know them. But then I'm good enough to where I can bring them back. "Oh, this is Shoan, you met me somewhere here and blah, blah, blah." And they're like, "Oh," and then I'm like, "Are you a patriot?" And they're like, "Absolutely." And I go, "Let's go, America." You know,
Hmm.
that's what I'm all about. I don't know. I don't want to go get political. But back to you. So, so what are some challenges that people have, or what are some of the biggest mistakes they have to where people are like, okay, this is obviously uh there's no heart behind what's happening here.
Well, as I've beaten it into the ground already, it's not having a plan. And so that's a big part of it, because when you don't know why something's going on, it's really hard to write to it. And then I think trying to be too fancy is something that I see people do a lot, where they feel like they have to write this really ripping email with like all sorts of NLP in it and this other stuff, and then the third thing you want them to believe. And sometimes that's super handy, or sometimes it's as simple enough as, "Hey, we've been chatting. I ain't heard back from you. Do you want me to still follow up with you or not? No hard
Yeah.
feelings either way, but let me know because I don't want to be a bother anymore."
What I
Um,
did is a good example because I was like, "Hey, everybody, we're going to be having this live event and it's going to be awesome. And the best speakers in the world are going to be there. And you're going to get this and that. And you're going to be able to intermingle." And you're like, just go, "Hey, Shoan, just say, hey, I'm having a live event. Are you interested in hearing about it?" I'm like,
oh
"Oh,
yeah,
yeah."
that's right. I remember we were writing that email, or the
I wrote
before
like
when
a
we were telling
20-page text.
yeah, we were telling people about the people that are registered, because it's not just a Zoom, it's a
Yeah.
legitimate virtual conference. So you kind of have
Yeah.
your little badge, and there's tables, and you have
Yeah.
your profile, and you can connect with people, which people aren't used to.
Nope.
And so the couple days before, we were writing the email to tell people, "Hey, you got to go ahead and set your profile up ahead of time to get the most
Yeah.
out of it." And yeah, and you were just going into this thing and sell, da 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 da. And it ended up being a really simple email of like, "Hey, this event's unlike anything it's probably unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's just like being at a conference. To get the most out of it, go set your profile up." And then we gave them a couple reasons of why they wanted to do that.
Right.
Or like another example, I was working with a guy who has a membership site, and he was having me look at trying to collect more failed payments. And he had emails going out when the card fails and all this stuff. I'm like, "Well, go ahead and show me your emails. What's he looking like?" And the subject line said something like, "There's a problem." And then there's like three paragraphs of something, and then it finally said, "Your card's failed. You need to go ahead and update your billing here." And I'm like, "Yo, get rid of that entire first part." Because again, what's the customer journey? The customer journey isn't to get them to read the email and feel good. The email is there to get it open, get them click into the membership site, update their card. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Hey, I bet you'll have a lot better results if the subject line says your card has failed.
Yeah.
Hey, we appreciate being part of this producers group. Uh, there is an error billing you for the last thing. If you know that this is intention, if this is no surprise to you because you got a new card or it's expired or something, that's easy to fix. Click here to go do it. If you're not sure why, we'll try again in a few days, but you may just want to put a new card on file now."
Yeah.
That kind
I'll
of
tell
stuff.
you what, you say my card has failed, I am clicking like faster than lightning. I
Yeah.
had I had a I had the when I used to live 5 houses from the ocean in Hermosa Beach, if you know anything about Hermosa Beach. But anyhow, that's my hometown. But the thing is, I had the marketing director of 24 Hour Fitness. I had a party and he was at my house. So I got a lifetime of 24 Hour Fitness membership for $20
Nice.
a year, and I lost
Woo!
that. I lost that because my card failed.
And you didn't get a card on file in time enough?
Nope.
Ugh.
I went there in 2 months and they're like, "Oh, you don't have that membership anymore." I'm like, "Oh, how do I get it back?" They're like, "No, sir, you get nothing." I was like, "Ah." But, I got a good deal now with EOS, 2 people,
Mhm.
15 bucks a month. But, we're coming to the top of the hour. But one of the things you're saying about keeping it simple and keeping it short and simple and sweet is, even though I teach that, I always go off the rails. One of the things with this event I have coming up, the whole point is, look at where everyone likes the face-to-face events. If I look at that picture behind you, people love that. We are social animals, right? We want to be, well, except my ex-girlfriend. Everybody wants to be around every she had social anxiety disorder. This is like from 15 years ago. But everybody has they want to be with people, right? Like, here's a church, here's the steeple, open the door, see all the people, right?
Mhm.
Um, and the thing with my online event, which is going to be, we're going to have a dance party afterwards where you guys can rub elbows, right? But this online event is, you can put on your makeup and iron your favorite shirt, you know, and prepare for the dance as you're getting trained on how to save money and how to have your taxes done appropriately, or whatever our speaker is this time. I hope he's not watching because I should know what he's talking about. But it has some he's a financial advisor. He's really good. But but that's kind of my point, is changing the mindset of America, that these online events are still awesome. And you were on it, and that once people experience this, it's going to be like nothing before. And then, thank God, what I have is, and then we're going to go dance, which I'm all about. Let's go to the disco, right? Let's get in the bar, let's be beautiful, and let everybody see how awesome we are. People love that stuff, right?
Mhm.
It's like when I go to traffic and conversions and I go to those I go to those VIP parties afterwards. I'm laughing because of some of the experiences I've had there. The most Christian people are just way
They get wild.
alcoholic, drug addict, slurring their words, about to fall down. And I'm like, didn't I just watch a video of you praising the Lord? Whatever. But anyhow, I shouldn't have said that. But okay, so to wrap this all up, because we're at the top of the hour, um,
That was fast.
how do you help people? What do you do when it comes to the customer journey? How do people find you, and what's your next big deal?
All right. Well, I am all over the internet, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. If you want to see a really unimpressive landing page, go to paulsokol.me. It's the same one I've had up since 2013. And that's intentional. That's to kind of filter out the chuckleheads. And you can also go to bpro.events, which is the more professional business side of it. That's the agency there. And exactly everything I spoke about today is what we do. We design world class automation and advertising experiences. And it's the same general process, just different tools for automation versus advertising. But
Yeah,
it's all a repeatable process. And then we realize it, we develop it. And as far as the next big thing, I have a charity called Keep Children Rockin'.org, no G on Rockin', and we provide music equipment repairs and donations to youth music programs. And we do an annual heavy metal festival every year called the Dead of Winter Fest. And so if you're anywhere in the Phoenix metro area, and actually, I guess I'm officially announcing the dates now, but it's okay. None of the scenes probably seeing this. January 26th and 27th of 24 at the Tempe Tavern. We're going to do another 2-day event, and we're going to have at least 12 bands, maybe 14, depending on how many we end up booking. And it is a heavy metal, like heavy metal. Like if you look at this shirt and that doesn't excite you, you're not the target audience, which is cool. It's not for everybody. Yeah, there you go. That's my band right there. You forgot your poster of the Keep Children Rockin' stickers last time we jammed, Showed. You
Oh, I
gotta,
did?
yeah, you gotta grab those. It's okay.
Well, and then what there's the thing that I need to there's something I need to bring to you, and I forgot what it was, and I was just gonna say. But yeah,
Was
we'll
it the
tr
keyboard?
maybe a
Because you did bring the keyboard over.
oh yeah, the keyboard manual.
Ah, okay. Sean made a donation. We hung out and jammed
Yeah,
to get ready for the automated marketing summit because that's obviously related to delivering a good event is playing music. And yeah, he donated a whole keyboard.
fully a fully
Cool.
weighted 88 key keyboard.
Mm-hmm. And so we'll make sure that gets cleaned up and donated to the School of
Yeah,
Rock or something like that. So thank you for that, Sean. And we'll
yeah,
have to do it again.
I
And
liked it.
it was funny watching us try and play together because I'm a drummer and so I do heavy metal drums, and you're like a smooth
Yeah,
jazz keyboardist. Dude, we
yeah.
couldn't find a note to save ourselves. Like that was
It was fun.
funny. Yeah, and that's all that matters. It was.
Music
We
brings
liked
people together.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw so we're gonna end this stream. So again, it's bpro.events
Mm-hmm.
or Paul Sokol, SOKOL
Dot me.
.me.
Yeah.
And so go ahead, check that out. And one of the things is with the .me website, that is from 2013. So you'll see how advanced things have come from
Mm-hmm.
that time. But the point is, it still works. So it's not about the technology, it's about the use of the technology. So
Mm-hmm.
thanks for showing up, Paul.
Thanks for having me, Sean. We'll have to do it again sometime.